Hey, Pickens, I want to ask you how you are doing, but I don't want to pretend that I don't know, especially those of us in Nigeria. The math has not been mathing. Things have been going haywire. No, I'm not trying to be the harbinger of doom, but I understand that we are currently going through tough times. And today on this episode, I want us to talk heart to heart. No notes, no no wheels to glide on, right? I want us to have this chit chat. Remember, we are in this together. And to this episode, we're talking about parenting through hard times. Oh no, this is not what I wanted us to discuss today. As of last week, I had two very amazing topics in mind that I wanted to play around and see which one would be better. But as of yesterday, I sat down and I thought about it. Is this what you truly need in this season? Is this what you all need in this moment? And then it hit me. And then it hit me. That's exactly not it. Parenting through tough times. What do you do when you've done everything you know how to? What do you do when it becomes increasingly difficult to plan around things, to put things in perspective, to be sure about tomorrow? How do you stay consistent as an excellence-driven parent when you are not sure of what the next moment holds? Now, while I want to sit down with you and lick wounds with you, while I want to empathize with you and really stay down in that dark hole with you, I'm sorry. I'm just going to push you out of that hole, nudge you to keep going. And that's why we're doing this today. It's not going to be a long one. It's just going to be something for the road. Just a quick short one, right? How do you parent through tough times? Number one, you have to be resilient. What is resilience? Bouncing back, right, from challenges, or should we say from bad blows? Bad one happens, another blows happens. You keep bouncing. What if you're out of bounces? You're tired of keep going down and going back up, falling and going back up. I am afraid I'm going to tell you that so long as there is life, even a live dog has more hope than a dead lion. For those little children you are raising, for their future, and for the legacy, because of the legacy you are building, you have to find the strength, you have to find the courage to pick up, to keep fighting. So get those gloves off your hands, to get back in the canvas and fight. I know you are tired. Sometimes I get tired. Sometimes I cry too. Sometimes I throw in the towel and I say, you know what? I can't do this anymore. But then I look at those three and I tell myself, well, yeah, if I give up now, it means that the day we have to start afresh. And they will have to fight these systems that stopped me. They will have to fight these lions that roared empty barks and I backed down. They will have to fight these powers that kept me bound and left me with just dreams and empty sounds. I remind myself that for them, to give them a fighting chance, to stay a parenting advantage, I have to keep fighting, even if it's with the last drop of my blood. Take from that anger today, that righteous indignation, and Beacon, get back in the canvas. Be resilient and fight. Not for you, but for those little children, for that little child, for the destinies you are shaping, and for the future, the legacy you are building. Another way to parent through tough times is to go after the disciplined pursuit of less. Greg McNeil does so much justice to this subject matter in his book Essentialism. You see, there's no such thing as balance. You know, I lived so many decades of so many years of my life thinking that I could achieve balance in parenting. I could be there for my children, have an amazing marriage while I pursue my ambition or my life's goals. I'm sorry, in case somebody ever told you, there ain't gonna be no balance. Balance only can happen if you're putting the same weight on different sides of the scale. Let's say for feathers and stones, for instance. Even if I have 10 bags of feathers, I must match the same with the weight in stone to be able to achieve a balance, right? How many things, tasks, or demands of parenting or marriage can you really put on a scale to achieve balance? What two things can you weigh? Do you do the sacrifices you make? Can you even say now that sacrificing your ambition to raise children is worth even comparing? Can you say that there's a balance to be struck in there? Do they which one really outweighs the other if you want to talk about balance? Next one would be the disciplined pursuit of less. Greg McNeil in his book Essentialism did so much justice to this subject matter. You see, I lived in that fantasy. I was of course, should I call it living in under the delusion that there was such a thing as balance, you know. But then the hard reality hits me when I discover that you can only talk about balance when you're weighing the same things of equal weight, putting them on a scale, right? Take feathers, take stones. If you weigh a bag of feathers and two stones, what checks out at the end of the day is the weight, right? How many things in parenting can you weigh? Can you put on the scale that you would now say, I want to create balance around? And then I learned about the word that changed a lot for me. The term is harmony. The term is essentialism. What is essential to you in every season, at every point in time? And what do you need to really do that PhD right now? Are your children strong enough, old enough, independent enough, self-led enough, resilient enough, taught enough, anchored enough for you to leave them alone for the period of a year and 6 months? Can it really wait? If it can you hold on first? Build the skills, get the support system you require so that your absence will not create so much of a difference. Do you really have to go to that party? Does that one bear have to have you in it? Can that wedding hold if you do not attend it? You see, there are so many things you have to sacrifice. I've told you before, right? When it comes to excellence in parenting, you're going to be making a lot of sacrifices. You're going to ask yourself in this season, which benefit outweighs what risk you're going to choose accordingly. You see, because times are hard, of course, but it will take a lot of grit and courage for you to toughen up, put your big boy pants on, and get in there and keep fighting. But to do that, if you are juggling too many balls, right, you will wear yourself out. I learned about Rory, a certain coach who had someone drop a lot of his income streams just so he could focus on the vital few instead of the trivial many. A lot of us are actually going after a lot, forgetting that it's so painful, forgetting the Pareto principle. 20% of your work gives you 80% of the results. You're going to have to sit down and think, what 20 things can I do that will give me 80% of the results that I'm looking for? What 20 skills can I learn that will give me 80% of the things that I'm looking for? What 20% relationships can I keep that will give me 80% of the balance? I am looking for balance again in quotes. The disciplined pursuit of less does not just relate to your personal life. Well, are you overwhelming yourself by learning too many, committing to too many courses or classes or coaches or meetings, or wearing too many hats? Right? Deacon in the church, you had the children's choir session. You are this, you are amongst the greeters, you are everywhere, you are amongst the ushers. You see, when you declutter your life and focus on the vital few instead of the trivial many, you'll be more energized, you'll have a lot more time, you'll be less irritable and cranky, you'll be more present, you'll have so much more clarity to be able to make decisions that can move the needle forward for you in particular, and then your family in general. Another way to parent through tough times is to learn to do 3Ds. You see, a lot of us, me inclusive, I find it very difficult to do one of them. Oh, not just one, to do all three. Most of the times, you see, we just have this false mindset that we have to show up everywhere, be present everywhere, and expect to have amazing results across board. D number one is learn to delegate. 24 hours is so little, so little. It's not enough to do a lot of things. So if you are deceiving yourself that you can be present in that board meeting, present as a PTA chairman, present as this and that, one of your glass balls will fall and shatter, right? God forbid, has never been a strategy. There's never been a mindset. There's never been a principle. There's no work. Instead of saying God forbid, what systems can you put in place? How do you become systemic so that you will be able to make this a preventative miracle? Preventative in the sense that, of course, that ball will not fall because you have put systems in place to make sure that you keep it in the air and keep it secure. Learn to delegate. You can't do everything. You can't do it all. You see, you may actually be more efficient. You may actually make more. You may actually have more time for things that are important for you if you do not sweat over the small stuff. If you delegate the much that you can and focus monomaniacally on the trivial few the vital few rather that you should do. For instance, girl, what business have you washing plates when you can delegate that? Why are you spending 1 hour on tasks that you can pay less than maybe $10 to get done at the end of the day? If you can, you have to go to the place or assume the mindset really that your money has to go on some errands for you at some point. You can't expect to be washing plates and be supervising homework and be vacuuming at the same time. I'm sorry for those of you who are in countries in the world where you cannot get a living maid or something. Can you get someone to be coming to clean the house from time to time, maybe 3 times a week? Can you maybe have a system around someone who can come and babysit for you while you get some stuff done, or get someone who can do it? For those of us here in Nigeria, even as much as we look at the things that are bad, let us thank God for the fact that we can even get help, adequate help. Right, we're not even going to get into the details of the old gist about domestic staffing. There are intricacies around it. In fact, there are so many conversations around that I would want us to have with me personally and with people who are killing it in that department. But that's not what this is about today. Get as much help as you possibly can. When you die today, should you die today, let's say if, right, that money is not going to be buried with you. Shock you. Aha. The next of kin will take over. And God help you. God really, really help you if you're on your own on this vision of excellence in parenting. So deploy your resources. God has blessed you with those resources so that you'll be able to live a well-rounded life, so that you'll be able to create a life for your children, so that some prayer points will not be their business, right? How can your child be praying for electricity bill when you are David that reads Solomon? You get it. Yeah, I think if you've watched our previous video on that, you would understand the inside joke, right? So at the end of the day, if you delegate a lot, you save more time, you save more energy, you will make a lot more money, right? Because you will now have time to groom your skills, right? Your career capital that can give you the negotiative advantage to maybe negotiate your time, competitive advantage. Yeah, negotiate your hours, your rates. Become so good at something that, according to Cal Newport, you cannot be ignored. You can say, I would choose to work remotely 3 times a week and then come in to the office and work twice. I don't want to take office meetings. I don't want to have to reply to emails promptly. You can actually bargain, have a bigger, an upper hand if you focus on the vital few. Delegate as much as possible. Delegate. But to even delegate properly, you must assume the mindset of a leader instead of a boss. Simon Sinek can never stop talking about leaders being in charge of people under their charge, leaders being in charge of the people in charge of the work, right? You must take care of your people so that they in turn will take care of you, right? You must have that mindset of constantly pouring into them, being there, holding space, understanding, empathizing with them, curating a workspace, a work culture, an environment that fosters their growth too. You cannot be yelling at someone and be demanding or expecting the best of them. There has to be corrective measures that are not dehumanizing, right? You have to create an environment where everyone wants to come in and work. If you show that you care, they too will return the favor. The next day will be defer. Some of us just spend so much time doing things that I am sorry are absolutely unnecessary. In this moment, at that time, do you absolutely need to take that call? If you don't take that call in that instant, will the world end? Will you die? Can you defer that appointment to later in the month? Can you defer that degree, that program, till later in the year, till maybe your daughter or maybe your son gets to a certain age where they can be more independent? Nothing like, because God gives you visions of the future doesn't mean that you have to do it today, here and now. He's telling you about things. Come, let me tell you things about the future. The future is not tomorrow. It necessarily may not be next year. It may be in the next 5 years or even a decade. You can now ask yourself, okay, what 1% move can I make towards that vision? You don't have to deploy it immediately. You have to even prepare. You have to assume the personality, the mindset, the identity, right, of someone who can birth that vision. Okay, so you must learn to defer. The final D is dump. There's so many things you need to dump. Some people are just so used to carrying a lot of friendships that are draining, that are exhausting, that are demanding. In this season in your life, you may need to dump some friends. It's not from a place of arrogance or pride. It's from a place of what is essential to you. Do you really need to go for that party? Or do you need to sit down and supervise your children while they do their homework? Yeah, let's say you have a lesson teacher to do that, right? Fine, you have delegated that part. Bravo. But what are the things that are making your life so much of a clutter, that are making you slow? You see, even with your systems, your phones, your watches, your iPads or computers, there are times that they get really slow. You need to delete some apps. What are the habits you need to dump right now? What are the mindsets that no longer serve you? You need to dump right now. What are the grudges that are not serving you? You need to dump right now. What are those things you are consciously allowing into your mental space, your mind space, that are not even serving you? What news are you listening to that is making you cringe and putting you in, like, that is keeping you in a place of limitation and fear? If you guide your ears and your eyes, which are the gateways to your mind, you see that a lot of things will not blow you hither thither. You'll be so secured and anchored that a lot of things will not make you scared or afraid. You must learn to self regulate yourself to the point where many controversial things or news do not throw you around, because it's from a place of wholesomeness, a place of securities, a place of groundedness. You'll be able to parent children, and even not, and of course, parent children excellently. You see, if you allow every little news you hear get in the way of things, you'll be erratic, you'll be irritable, you'll be touchy, you can't be present. Let's not even talk about depression and all the negative things, effects it can have on you and then your children or your spouse. Learn to dump. There are a lot of things you have no business doing that you carry every day. Habits, mindsets, grudges, people, places, contacts, a lot of things. Take inventory and look for the one to dump. A final one, thinking of one in my head right now, a bonus one would be just learn to be. We're always trying to be productive. Yeah, I have to do this. This has to be that. Just learn sometimes to just be still. The blessing of doing nothing. Just be in the moment. You have done the most you can do. You have done the best you can do. Can you just rest? Can you take that nap and not feel guilty? Can you take that trip and not feel guilty about it? Can you take that alone time, that time off work, that time away from the family or the children? Spa dates, play dates, that trip, whatever it is, to help you recharge. Is it the nap you need? Make it guilt free. You want to eat a bowl of ice cream? If your health permits it, your weight or your diet plan permits it, please dive right in, because you need to be full to be able to pour into something. You cannot give from an empty cup. You cannot give from an empty place. Your children demand or require rather require your wholeness, your fullness, so they too can draw from that well. Remember, we are legacy conscious parents in behaving a certain way, in parenting a certain way. We are not just doing it right in the moment, we are setting the pace for how our children will raise their children too, by giving them a blueprint of excellence, by giving them the theory of everything, the blueprint of how. That way, they are not going to be trailblazers in that sense anymore. They will now be curating, editing your systems and building up on instead of starting from the scratch. All right. In this episode today, we've talked about parenting through tough times. While I empathize with you for whatever it is you're going through, I'm afraid you don't have me in your life to just sit with you this time for empathy, to hold space and just keep quiet. Now I have to jog you back to life, remind you for the sake of those children, hey beacons, you are guiding lights. Let your light begin to shine again. If it was dim, wash the bulb. If you turned it off, it's time to change the light bulb, switch it back on, and keep leading the hearts of those children. God can never put more on you than you can bear. As my friend from the very first episode we had with some guests on the podcast said, the elephant's head is never heavier than it. I remember a story of some people who were said to have died, and one guy went to heaven and he was quarreling with God. God, the cross you gave me was so heavy, it was too heavy, it was too heavy for me. And he crushed me. And God said, okay, there are crosses there. Which one would you have picked? He lifted the first one and he said it was too heavy. He lifted the next one. Oh my God, he couldn't even really keep it up for a minute. He went on and then he got one and he lifted it and he said, this is just right for me. And God replayed the clip of his life and he said, that's exactly the cross that I gave you to carry. I know your strengths. I know your weaknesses. I am not a weapon formed against you. I want you to progress. I want you to be okay. Remember what the Bible says. I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers, right? God will not give you challenges that you cannot handle. He will not put more on you than you can bear. In the midst of it, remember in the book of Matthew, he said, come to me. I will make your yoke easy and your burden light. Take that burden to God. And I wish you all the very best in this season. Remember, you can reach out to us at any time and trust us to be there, to hold space, to nudge you forward. But don't expect me to sit down with you and be crying forever. I'll cry with you, but I'll push you back in the canvas and tell you you've been built for more and that tough times don't last. But tough people do. Go back in there and keep fighting, Beacon, because you were built to last. You are tough and we've got you. Thank you so much for spending time today with us on this episode. We appreciate you. Until we see you again next time, stay excellent.